Are you replacing the surge thruster on your Blueye Pioneer? Let's take a look at the following step-by-step procedure. Start with removing the battery. You should always remove the battery when performing maintenance on your drone. Continue with opening the side cover. Try to keep the drone in a laying position whenever possible to reduce falls. Swing the cover open by lifting the back and the lower flap. Remove the buoyancy. Next up is to remove the tether shackle. Use the 3mm hex key to remove the screw in the tether shackle. Continue by removing the 4 screws in the front cover using a Torx T10 key. Remove the front cover and the front buoyancy and pull the aluminum body apart from the plastic thruster assembly. Next up is to remove the 2 socket screws on the thruster connector using a 3mm hex key. Pull the thruster connector out by gripping the connector body, not the cable. Some force may be required to remove it. Continue by removing the 2 socket screws in the back of the surge thruster arms using a 2.5mm hex key. When you have removed the screws, use a flathead screwdriver to disengage the thruster arm snap lock on the right side and pull the arm slightly backwards. Repeat this for the left side as well. When you have disengaged both snap locks, pull the surge thruster arms backwards until they are entirely free from the vertical thruster tube. Note: keep the horizontal orientation of the thruster arms, since the left and right thruster are not interchangeable. Locate the thruster you are replacing. In this video, we are replacing the right-hand surge thruster. Remove the 4 3mm socket screws holding the surge thruster grids by using a 2.5mm hex key. The next step is to pull the thruster grids out. You may have to feed the thruster cable a bit to fully disassemble the grid. Before you continue with installing the new thruster, you will need to add O-rings to the new thruster connector. Your workspace should be tidy and free of dust. Start by double-checking that the correct propeller is installed on the new thruster. The initials on the right-hand side propeller should say CW. The initials on the left-hand side propeller should say CCW. Grab the grease tube and apply a small amount of grease to your fingertip. Pick up the O-rings and distribute the grease. Move over to install the O-rings into the glands on the connector. Continue by installing the stands of the new thruster into the notches in the grid. The orientation of the thruster is not important. Push the connector through the thruster arm until it is reachable from the other side. Follow up by reinstalling the grid into the thruster arm. The screw holes should be aligned with the screw towers inside the thruster arms. Reinstall the 4 3mm socket screws in the thruster grid using a 2.5mm hex key. Reinstall the thruster arms onto the vertical thruster tunnel. The right and left snap block must be guided in place. Follow up with guiding the thruster cables on both sides inside of the snap arms. Continue with pushing the thruster arms forward until they are properly seated and snap hooks are fully engaged. Reinstall the 2 socket screws in the back of the surge thruster arms using a 2.5mm hex key. Continue with installing the thruster connector. Note the small feature on the connector body. This feature should be pointing down when reinstalling the connector. Align the pins and receptacles before pushing the connector into the aluminum body. Reinstall the 2 socket screws to secure the thruster connector. Tighten lightly by hand. Reinstall the second surge thruster connector. Finish by reinstalling the 2 socket screws to secure the thruster connector. Tighten lightly by hand. Grab the front buoyancy. Place it onto the aluminum body. The 4 guides must be fully seated. Reinstall 2 of the 4 screws into the front cover using a Torx T10. Then flip the system around and install the remaining 2 screws. Grab the right-hand side buoyancy and place it. Then place the right-hand side cover. The side covers are hinged in the front and should be rotated in place. There are 2 hinges, one at the top and one at the bottom of the front cover. Both hinges must be engaged properly. Flip the system around. Reinstall the 4mm socket screw in the tether shackle using a 3mm hex key. Guide the tether backward as shown. Place the buoyancy. Close the side cover. Reinstall the 3 side cover screws using a 3mm hex key. Finally, snap the bottom thruster grids in place. Thank you for watching. Head over to the Blueye Help Center for more tutorials, articles, and support.